The Korean Mafia boss saw his black waitress, sleeping on a frozen street bench. Then he did something that changed both of their lives forever. Kang Dae-hyun didn't believe in fate until he saw her curled up on that bench at 2:47 a.m., her uniform still on, arms wrapped around herself against the November cold. Using her apron as a blanket, the streetlight above her flickered, casting shadows across her face, beautiful even in exhausted sleep, breath forming small clouds in the freezing air. He'd been walking to clear his head after a meeting that had gone sideways, blood still on his knuckles from the negotiation that had turned violent. And there she was, his waitress, the woman who served him coffee every morning at the Golden Egg Diner with a smile that felt like sunlight. For 6 months, Dae-hyun had been coming to that diner. Every morning, 7 a.m. sharp, same booth by the window. And every morning, she'd bring him coffee, black, no sugar, with that smile and a soft, "Good morning, Mr. Kang," that made something in his chest ache. He'd learned her name from her tag, Tessa Brooks. Learned she worked doubles most days, was always kind to the homeless people who came in, had a laugh that made other customers smile even when they were having bad days. But he'd never seen her like this, vulnerable, sleeping rough on a bench in Koreatown at nearly 3 in the morning, clearly homeless, clearly with nowhere else to go. Dae-hyun's driver, Choi, stood by the car, waiting patiently. His bodyguards flanked him at a discreet distance, and Dae-hyun stood frozen, staring at this woman who'd unknowingly become the bright spot in his dark days, trying to decide what the hell to do. He could walk away, should walk away. He was Kang Da-hyun, head of the Kang family organization, one of the most powerful men in LA's criminal underworld. She was a waitress, clearly struggling, clearly not part of his world. Getting involved would be complicated, dangerous for her, inappropriate given the power imbalance. But it was 40 degrees out, dropping fast. She was shivering even in sleep, and something in Dae-hyun's chest cracked at the sight of her, trying to make herself smaller against the cold. This woman who'd shown him nothing but warmth. "Choi," he said quietly, not taking his eyes off her, "get blankets from the car and call the Imperial Hotel. I want the penthouse suite prepared immediately. Make sure they have women's clothing ready. Sizes," he assessed quickly. "Size 6, medium tops. Everything she might need." "Boss," Choi's voice was carefully neutral, "is that wise?" "I didn't ask if it was wise. I asked you to do it." Dae-hyun approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. Up close, he could see more details that made his jaw tighten with anger. Not at her, but at whatever circumstances had put her here. Her uniform was clean but worn, carefully mended in several places. Her sneakers had holes in them. Her hands, curled under her chin, were chapped and raw from work. This woman served him coffee every morning with dignity and grace, and she was sleeping on a goddamn bench. "Tessa," he said softly, crouching beside the bench. "Tessa, wake up." She jerked awake instantly, eyes flying open in panic, body tensing like she was ready to run or fight. Those eyes, dark brown, beautiful, and currently filled with fear, focused on him, and confusion replaced the panic. "Mr. Kang?" Her voice was hoarse from sleep and cold. She sat up quickly, trying to smooth her uniform, mortification flooding her face. I'm sorry, I was just resting for a minute. I didn't mean to." "How long have you been sleeping out here?" Dae-hyun asked, cutting through her stammered apology. This isn't..." She stopped, seemed to realize there was no point lying. Her shoulders sagged. 2 weeks, since my landlord changed the locks. I was behind on rent, and he didn't want to go through the legal eviction process, so..." She wrapped her arms around herself, not meeting his eyes. "I've been saving up for a new place. Just need first month, last month, and deposit. Another week or 2 of shifts and I'll have it. And in the meantime, you sleep on benches." "I'm fine, really. I've got a gym membership. Planet Fitness, $10 a month. I shower there, keep my stuff in a locker. It's not ideal, but I'm managing." She finally met his eyes, and he saw pride there, fierce and defensive. "I'm not asking for charity, Mr. Kang. I can handle my own problems." "I'm sure you can." Dae-hyun stood, making a decision that would change both their lives. "But you're not going to. Not anymore. You're coming with me." Tessa blinked. "Excuse me. You're freezing, you're exhausted, and I'm not leaving you on this bench." He gestured to his car. I've arranged a hotel room. Clean, warm, safe. You can shower, sleep in a real bed, and in the morning we'll figure out something more permanent. Mr. Kang, I don't. She stood up, backing away slightly. I appreciate the offer, but I don't know you. And you don't know me. This is too much. You're right. We don't know each other well. But Tessa, I've been coming to your diner for 6 months. You've served me coffee, asked about my day, treated me with kindness when most people see me and look away. He took a step closer, keeping his voice gentle. Let me return that kindness. Please, it's just a hotel room. No strings, no expectations. Just somewhere warm to sleep. She studied him, clearly torn between pride and practicality. He could see the moment practicality won, her eyes flicking to the bench, to the cold wind picking up, to her own shaking hands. Just for tonight, she said finally, and I'm paying you back. We'll discuss terms in the morning. Daehyun nodded to Choi, who opened the car door. After you. Tessa hesitated one more moment, then climbed into the car. Daehyun slid in beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. As Choi pulled into traffic, Daehyun noticed Tessa's hands still trembling. From cold or nerves, he couldn't tell. Thank you, she said quietly, staring out the window. I know this is weird, and probably stupid of me to get in a car with a stranger at 3 a.m., but thank you. You're not stupid, and I'm not exactly a stranger. Daehyun pulled off his coat, a $5,000 Burberry that he barely thought about, and draped it over her shoulders. She tensed at the gesture, but didn't pull away. How did this happen? The eviction. Tessa pulled his coat tighter around herself, and Daehyun tried not to notice how small she looked in it. My mom got sick 6 months ago. Cancer. She didn't have insurance, so I've been paying for her treatment. Clinical trial at City of Hope. It's working, she's in remission now, but she shrugged. Medical bills don't care if you're broke. I got behind on everything else. Rent, utilities, my car payment. Lost the car first, then the apartment. And your mother doesn't know you're homeless? It wasn't a question. Tessa's expression confirmed it. She'd feel guilty. Try to refuse treatment. I won't let her die because we don't have money. Something fierce and protective rose in Daehyun's chest. This woman, this beautiful, stubborn, proud woman, had sacrificed everything for her mother, was sleeping on benches and working doubles while maintaining that bright smile every morning. What about other family? Friends? Mom's all I have. Dad died when I was 12. And friends? She laughed bitterly. Turns out, when you're broke, people stop calling. I had a boyfriend until 3 months ago. He left when the money ran out. Said he couldn't deal with my drama. He was an idiot. That surprised a real laugh out of her. Yeah, he really was. She turned to look at Daehyun directly for the first time. Why are you doing this? Really? Good question. Daehyun could give her the simple answer, that he was a decent person who saw someone in need. But sitting this close to her, seeing her face in the passing streetlights, smelling the faint scent of cheap shampoo and diner grease, and something uniquely her, he knew the truth was more complicated. Because for 6 months, you've been the best part of my mornings, he said honestly. Because you smile at everyone like they matter. Because you're clearly strong as hell and deserve better than a bench in November. He met her eyes. And because I can help. So why wouldn't I? Tessa's eyes filled with tears. I'm not charity. I know you're... He paused, searching for the right words. You're someone I'd like to know better, if you'll let me. The car pulled up to the Imperial Hotel, one of the most expensive in downtown LA, which Daehyun owned through a shell corporation. Choi opened the door, and Daehyun led Tessa through the lobby, past the 24-hour staff who knew better than to stare, up the private elevator to the penthouse suite. The doors opened directly into the suite, and Tessa stopped dead. Oh my God, Mr. Kang, this is too much. The penthouse was excessive even by Daehyun standards. 3,000 square feet, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, marble everything, furnishings that cost more than most people's yearly salary. But seeing it through Tessa's eyes, he suddenly felt embarrassed by the opulence. The bedroom's through there, he said, pointing. Bathroom has a tub and separate shower. There should be clothes in your size in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. Order room service for anything you need. It's all taken care of. Tessa turned to him, his coat still around her shoulders. Where will you be? I have an apartment across town. You'll have complete privacy. Mr. Kang, Dae-hyun, please. Mr. Kang is what you call me at the diner. He smiled slightly. After midnight car rides, I think we can use first names. Dae-hyun, she tested the name, and he liked the way it sounded in her voice. Thank you. Really, I don't know how to repay this. Don't worry about it, he hesitated. Just keep smiling at me when I come in for coffee. That's payment enough. He left before he could do something stupid like stay, like ask to keep talking to her, like cross any more of the lines he'd already blurred tonight. In the elevator, Choi cleared his throat. That was unexpected, boss. Which part? All of it. Since when do you get personally involved with civilians? Since tonight, apparently. Dae-hyun rubbed his face, exhaustion hitting him. It had been a long night even before finding Tessa. Make sure security keeps an eye on that suite, discreetly, and have your wife go shopping in the morning. Clothes, shoes, everything she might need. Better quality than what I had them stock tonight. Your wife is going to ask questions. Tell her, Dae-hyun paused. Tell her the truth, that I found someone who needed help and I'm helping. She'll understand. In the car, Dae-hyun stared out the window at the city he'd fought to control, the empire he'd inherited and built into something powerful. And for the first time in years, he wondered what the point of all that power was if he couldn't use it to help one person who'd shown him kindness. Tessa stood in the middle of the penthouse suite, Dae-hyun's coat still around her shoulders, and tried to process what had just happened. 2 hours ago, she'd been sleeping on a bench, trying to ignore the cold and the fear and the embarrassment of having fallen this far. Now she was standing in a hotel suite that probably cost more per night than she made in a month. She moved to the window looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there was the bench she'd been calling home, the Planet Fitness where she showered, the diner where she worked 12-hour shifts trying to smile through exhaustion and hunger, and the constant low-level terror of being one emergency away from complete disaster. And now there was Dae-hyun, Mr. Kang, the handsome Korean businessman who came in every morning, always polite, always generous with tips, always looking at her with eyes that made her heart do stupid things. She'd noticed him immediately, hard not to when he looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine, all sharp suits and sharper cheekbones. But she'd kept it professional, because men who looked like that and wore watches that expensive didn't date broke waitresses who smelled like pancakes in desperation. Except he'd just given her a hotel room, had looked at her on that bench with something in his eyes that made her want to cry. Not pity, but something softer, concern, care. Tessa explored the suite slowly. The bedroom was bigger than her entire old apartment, bed piled with pillows that probably had thread counts in the thousands. The bathroom was marble and gold, with a bathtub that could fit 3 people and a shower with multiple heads. And in the closet, just as Dae-hyun had said, were clothes. Designer labels she recognized from window shopping. Everything in her size. She should feel weird about this. Should be suspicious of his motives. Rich men didn't do things like this without expecting something in return. Except Dae-hyun hadn't asked for anything. Hadn't made a single inappropriate comment. Had maintained a respectful distance in the car, left immediately after showing her the suite. Maybe he really was just being kind. Tessa ran a bath. The first real bath she'd had in weeks. Gym showers were functional, but this was luxury. She sank into water so hot it stung, adding bath salts from a crystal jar by the tub, and felt muscles she didn't know were tense finally relax. For the first time in 2 weeks, she felt warm all the way through. She cried in that bath, ugly, exhausting sobs that she'd been holding back for months. Cried for her mom and the terror of almost losing her. Cried for her lost apartment and lost car, and lost boyfriend who'd promised forever and delivered nothing. Cried for the version of herself who'd had dreams beyond survival, who'd planned to go back to school, who'd believed life would work out if she just tried hard enough. And then, because she'd learned that crying didn't fix anything, Tessa dried her tears and got out. She wrapped herself in a robe that felt like heaven and ordered room service. Grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, a salad, bread that was still warm. Food she never let herself buy because every dollar went to her mom's bills. While she ate, Tessa made a list on the hotel's notepad. Call mom in the morning. From work phone, don't worry her. Thank Dae-hyun properly, figure out apartment situation. Maybe possibly, if he's interested, get to know him better. That last item made her pause. Was she really thinking about pursuing something with him? A man who was clearly wealthy, clearly connected, clearly way out of her league? But then she remembered the way he looked at her on that bench, the gentleness in his voice, the fact that he'd been coming to see her every morning for 6 months, and she'd caught him watching her sometimes, with an expression that made her skin warm. Maybe she was being stupid. Maybe this was gratitude confusing itself for attraction. But lying in that enormous bed, wrapped in sheets that felt like clouds, Tessa let herself imagine, just for a moment, what it might be like to have someone like Dae-hyun in her life. Not for his money, but for the person he'd shown himself to be tonight. She fell asleep thinking about his eyes. Dae-hyun didn't sleep. He went to his apartment, showered off the blood from the earlier meeting, changed clothes, and sat in his study staring at nothing. His phone buzzed constantly, lieutenants checking in, business that needed attention, the usual chaos of running a criminal empire. He ignored all of it. Instead, he thought about Tessa, about finding her on that bench, about the way she'd looked in his coat, drowning in expensive fabric while maintaining that fierce pride, about her mother and the medical bills and the boyfriend who'd abandoned her when she needed support most. "You're brooding." His sister Jiwoo appeared in the doorway, glass of wine in hand. She'd been staying with him since her divorce, recovering from her own disasters. "What happened tonight? Besides the usual violence and moral ambiguity?" "I found someone I know sleeping on a bench. Homeless. Put her up at the Imperial." Jiwoo's eyebrows rose. "You? Mister, keep your distance from civilians. You got personally involved with someone?" "She serves me coffee every morning. Has for 6 months. She's..." Dae-hyun struggled to articulate what Tessa was to him. "She's good. Really good. Kind to everyone. And she was sleeping on a bench in November because she chose to pay her mother's medical bills instead of her rent." "Ah," Jiwoo sat down across from him. "So you're in love with her?" "I barely know her." "You know enough. You don't rescue strangers, Appa. You avoid entanglements. So if you broke pattern for this woman..." She smiled knowingly. "What's her name?" "Tessa. Tessa Brooks. And what are you going to do about her?" "Nothing. I helped her. That's all." "Liar." Jiwoo sipped her wine. "You're already planning how to keep her safe, how to fix her problems, how to insert yourself into her life without scaring her away." She leaned forward. "But brother, you need to be careful. Your world is dangerous. If your enemies find out you care about her..." "I know." Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. "Which is why I should probably keep my distance." "But you won't." "No." He met his sister's eyes. "I won't." "Then do it right. Be honest with her about who you are, what you do. Give her the choice to walk away before she's in too deep." Jiwoo's expression turned serious. "Don't let her become collateral damage in your world." The words hit hard because Jiwoo knew what she was talking about. Her ex-husband had been connected to a rival organization. She'd been caught in the crossfire of gang politics, had nearly died because someone wanted to send a message. Dae-hyun had ended that threat permanently, but the scars, physical and psychological, remained. "I'll be careful," he promised. Famous last words. But Jiwoo smiled. "For what it's worth, I hope she's worth the risk. You deserve something good in your life, Appa. Something that isn't about duty or legacy or violence." After Jiwoo left, Dae-hyun pulled up security footage from the Imperial. Just the lobby, just to confirm Tessa was safely inside. He told himself he was being prudent, ensuring she hadn't left or been followed. But the truth was simpler and more complicated. He wanted to see her again, even just on a screen. Morning came too quickly. Tessa woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and had a moment of complete disorientation before remembering where she was. The hotel. Dae-hyun. The impossible kindness of last night. She checked her phone. 5:30 a.m. Her shift at the diner started at 6. She needed to move. But first she explored the clothes in the closet more carefully. Designer jeans that fit perfectly, soft sweaters, a winter coat that was probably worth more than her entire previous wardrobe combined. Everything she might need. Tessa chose the simplest outfit, jeans, a black sweater, the coat, and left everything else hanging. She'd return it all later, once she was back on her feet. Taking more than she needed felt wrong, even if Dae-hyun had offered. She made it to the diner with 10 minutes to spare, slipping in through the back entrance. Her coworker Lisa took one look at her and whistled low. Girl, where did you get that coat? That's some designer shit. It's borrowed, Tessa said quickly, stashing it in her locker. Friend hooked me up. Some friend, Lisa's eyes were knowing. This wouldn't have anything to do with Mr. Tall, dark, and Korean who comes in every morning staring at you like you're dessert? Heat flooded Tessa's face. No, we're not, he's just a customer. Uh-huh, sure, and I'm Beyonce. Lisa bumped her shoulder. Girl, if a man who looks like that wants to buy you designer coats, you let him. Life is hard enough. Before Tessa could respond, the manager called them to the floor. The morning rush hit immediately. The diner was always packed between 6 and 9 a.m. Tessa fell into the familiar rhythm, taking orders, delivering food, refilling coffee. It felt surreal doing this normal work after sleeping in a penthouse suite, like she was living two separate lives. At 7 a.m. exactly, the bell over the door chimed and Dae-hyun walked in. Tessa's heart did something stupid in her chest. He looked incredible. Different suit, same confidence, moving through the crowded diner to his usual booth like he owned the place, which for all she knew, he might. Their eyes met across the room. He smiled, a real smile, not the polite one he usually gave, and something warm unfurled in Tessa's stomach. She grabbed the coffee pot and headed over, trying to ignore Lisa's knowing smirk from across the diner. Good morning, Mr. Kang, she said, falling into familiar professional patterns. Coffee? Please. And Tessa? He waited until she met his eyes. How did you sleep? Like the dead. That bed was... She trailed off, aware of other customers nearby. Thank you for everything. You're welcome. Do you have a break coming up? I'd like to talk, if that's okay. Yes, 20 minutes? Perfect. Tessa poured his coffee with shaking hands, hyper-aware of his presence, the way he watched her, the implications of what had happened last night and what might happen next. 20 minutes felt like both too long and not nearly enough time to prepare for whatever conversation was coming. When her break came, Tessa slid into the booth across from Dae-hyun, hands wrapped around her own mug of coffee. Up close in daylight, she could see details she'd missed last night. A thin scar along his jawline, the expensive watch on his wrist, the way his suit was tailored perfectly to his frame. He was almost too handsome, the kind of beautiful that made her nervous. So, she said, because someone had to start, I need to pay you back. For the room, the clothes, everything, I can't accept. You're not paying me back. Dae-hyun. Tessa, please, just listen for a minute. He leaned forward, expression serious. I don't want your money. I want to help you get back on your feet. So here's what I'm proposing. Stay in that suite until you find an apartment. Use it as your base. I'll cover the costs. That's insane. That room must cost thousands a night. It does, and I own the hotel, so it costs me nothing. He held up a hand before she could protest. Before you argue, hear me out. You need a safe place to stay while you save money. I have resources sitting empty. This benefits both of us. You get stability. I get the satisfaction of helping someone who deserves it. There has to be a catch. No catch, but he hesitated. I would like to get to know you better. Have dinner with me. Let me take you out properly. Not as payment or obligation, just because I'd like to. Tessa's pulse kicked up. You want to date me? The homeless waitress? I want to date Tessa Brooks, who works double shifts to pay her mother's medical bills, who smiles even when she's exhausted, who's been kind to me every morning for 6 months without asking for anything in return. His eyes held hers. Your financial situation doesn't define you, but it defines my life right now. Dae-hyun, I can't afford to go to the places you probably eat, can't dress like I belong in your world, and I don't have time for dating with my schedule. Then we'll figure it out. Date around your schedule. Eat where you want to eat. Tessa, I'm not asking you to change. I'm asking for a chance to know you better. He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close. Please, let me try. She should say no, should protect herself from getting hurt by a man who was clearly out of her league. But looking into his eyes, seeing genuine hope there, Tessa found herself nodding. Okay, one date. But Dae-hyun, you need to understand, I'm a mess right now. My life is chaos. I can't promise I'll be good company or that I'll have energy for anything beyond surviving day to day. I'll take that chance. His smile was devastating. Friday night? I'll pick you up at the hotel after your shift. Okay, it's a date. They stared at each other for a moment, something electric passing between them. Then Lisa appeared, clearing her throat loudly. Girl, your break ended 5 minutes ago, and we got a rush coming in. Tessa jumped up, face hot. Right. Sorry, She looked back at Daehyun. Friday. Friday, he confirmed, eyes warm. Tessa rushed back to work, but she felt his gaze following her for the rest of his meal. And when he left, he dropped a $200 tip on a $15 bill, along with a note in neat handwriting, looking forward to Friday. DH. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Tessa worked her shifts, slept in the impossible luxury of the penthouse suite, and tried not to think too hard about Friday's date. She called her mom every night, using the hotel phone, not revealing where she was, letting her mother believe everything was fine. You sound tired, baby, her mom said on Wednesday night. You working too hard? I'm fine, mama, just busy. How are you feeling? Any pain? Not a bit. That treatment is working miracles. Doctor says my numbers look great. A pause. Tessa, honey, I know what you've been sacrificing. When this is over, when I'm cleared, we're going to sit down and figure out how to get you back on track. Get you into school, get your life back. Tears burned Tessa's eyes. Mama, all that matters is you being healthy. Everything else can wait. It shouldn't have to. You're 26. Should be out living life, not working yourself to death for your sick old mother. You're not old, and I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Sweet dreams. After they hung up, Tessa sat on the enormous bed and let herself cry. For her mom, for herself, for the weight of it all. And then, because she was learning, she picked herself up and moved forward. Friday arrived with terrifying speed. Tessa finished her double shift at 6 p.m., went back to the suite, and stared at the closet full of designer clothes with mounting panic. She had no idea what to wear on a date with someone like Daehyun. What was appropriate? What would make her feel less like an imposter? She finally settled on simple. Black jeans, a deep burgundy sweater that brought out the warmth in her brown skin, minimal makeup, her natural curls left free. It was the most herself she could manage while still looking put together. At 7 p.m. exactly, there was a knock on the suite door. Tessa opened it to find Daehyun in dark slacks and a fitted black turtleneck, looking casual but devastating. His eyes traveled over her, and something heated flickered in them. You look beautiful, he said simply. Thank you. You look... She gestured vaguely because her brain had stopped working. Good. Really good. His smile was warm. Ready? They took his car, a different one from the other night, still expensive but less showy, and drove through evening traffic. Tessa expected him to take her somewhere fancy, some Michelin star restaurant where she'd feel out of place. Instead, they ended up in Little Tokyo at a small, unassuming ramen shop. This is my favorite place in L.A., Daehyun said as they settled into a booth. Family-owned, been here 30 years. The owner, Tanaka-san, taught me how to eat ramen properly when I first moved here. How old were you? 18, fresh from Seoul, trying to take over my father's business and failing spectacularly. He smiled at the memory. Tanaka-san took pity on me, fed me, gave me advice, and never judged. This place is sanctuary. The owner appeared, an elderly Japanese man who greeted Daehyun in rapid Japanese and Korean before turning to Tessa with a warm smile. And who is this beautiful young lady? Tanaka-san, this is Tessa. Tessa, this is the man who kept me alive my first year in America. Ah, flattery. He's trying to get extra chashu. But Tanaka's eyes twinkled. It's lovely to meet you, Tessa. Any friend of our Daehyun is family here. He disappeared into the kitchen and Tessa raised her eyebrows at Daehyun. Our Daehyun? He's known me a long time, seen me at my worst. Daehyun's expression turned serious. Which is why I brought you here. I want you to see the real me, not just the polished version that comes into your diner. And who's the real you? Someone who was drowning when he came to this country, who made mistakes and learned hard lessons, who built something he's both proud of and ashamed of. He met her eyes. Tessa, I need to tell you something about what I do, about my business. Tessa's stomach tightened. Okay. I run a Korean organization in L.A., what people call the Mafia, though that's not quite accurate. We do some legitimate business, real estate, import-export, restaurants. But we also operate in, he paused, gray areas, protection services, gambling, things that aren't exactly legal, but serve the community. The world seemed to tilt. Tessa had suspected he wasn't entirely legitimate. No one had that much wealth and power from completely legal sources, but hearing him confirm it made it real. You're a gangster, she said slowly. By some definitions, yes. By others, I'm a community organizer who helps Korean immigrants survive in a system that wasn't built for them. His expression was carefully neutral. I won't lie to you, Tessa. My world is dangerous. I've done things I'm not proud of, and being associated with me puts you at risk. Then why tell me? Why not just keep it hidden? Because you deserve honesty. Because if we're going to do this, he gestured between them, you need to know who I really am, what you'd be getting into. He leaned forward. And because I respect you too much to lie. Tessa's mind raced. This was insane. She was sitting across from a self-admitted criminal, a man who operated outside the law, who just warned her that knowing him was dangerous. Every instinct screamed to run, but he'd also taken her off a bench in November, given her a safe place to sleep, treated her with kindness and respect. And he was looking at her now, with eyes that held vulnerability alongside the danger. Tell me this, Tessa said finally. Do you hurt innocent people? No, never. That's my line. Do you exploit your community? Take advantage of people who are desperate? The opposite. We protect them. Help them when the system fails. His jaw tightened. I know how it sounds. Every criminal thinks they are the good guy. But Tessa, I fund schools, help immigrants start businesses, keep our communities safe from worse elements. Worse than the Mafia? Much worse. LA has gangs that deal in human trafficking, hard drugs, violence against civilians. We don't touch that. We operate a code. Tessa studied him, trying to reconcile the man who'd rescued her with the criminal he was admitting to being. Why are you telling me all this? You could have just not said anything. Let me think you were a regular businessman. Because I'm falling for you, Dae-hyun said simply. And I can't build something real on a foundation of lies. The confession hit Tessa in the chest. You barely know me. I know you're kind of homeless people who come into your diner. I know you work yourself to exhaustion for your mother. I know you smile even when you're breaking inside. I know you have pride despite having every reason to be bitter. His hand reached across the table, finding hers. I know enough. Tessa's heart pounded. This is crazy. Completely. I should run. Probably. But I'm not going to. She squeezed his hand. I'm going to finish this date, eat this ramen, and figure out what the hell I'm doing with my life. Dae-hyun's smile was incandescent. That works for me. The ramen was incredible. Rich broth, perfectly cooked noodles, toppings that melted in her mouth. They talked for hours, easy conversation flowing between bites. Dae-hyun told her about growing up in Seoul, his father's expectations, the weight of legacy. Tessa shared stories about her mom, her childhood in Inglewood, her dreams of maybe someday opening her own place. What kind of place? Dae-hyun asked. A community center, maybe. Somewhere people can get help, job training, food assistance, just a safe space. I've seen how hard it is for people like me. One emergency away from disaster, no safety net. She played with her napkin. It's a pipe dream, though. Would take money I'll never have. What if you could have it? Dae-hyun, I'm serious. What if I helped you make it happen? I'm not taking your money to build my dreams. No. Why not? I have resources sitting around doing nothing. You have vision and passion. Why not combine them? Because then it wouldn't be mine. It would be yours. Tessa met his eyes. I need to do this myself. Prove I can build something from nothing. That's fair, he nodded slowly. But if you ever change your mind, the offer stands. After dinner, they walked through Little Tokyo, past shops closing for the night. Dae-hyun kept a respectful distance, but Tessa found herself gravitating closer, drawn to his warmth. The evening had turned cold and she shivered despite her coat. Here. Dae-hyun shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. You'll freeze. I'll survive. His smile was soft. Besides, you look good in my clothes. Tessa's face heated. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, and she tried to process everything. The confession about his business, his admission that he was falling for her, The impossible situation she was sliding into, despite every logical reason to walk away. "Can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Anything." "Why me? Really, you could have anyone. Someone from your world, someone who understands your business, someone who's not a complete mess." Daehyun stopped walking, turning to face her. "You want the truth?" "Always. Because you see me. Not my money or my power or the organization I run. You see Daehyun, the guy who comes in for coffee every morning. You smile at me like I'm just a person, not a position." His hand came up to cup her cheek. "And because when I found you on that bench, something in me broke. The idea that you were suffering while serving me coffee with that beautiful smile, I couldn't stand it. I wanted to fix it. Wanted to fix everything for you. You can't fix me, Daehyun. I'm not broken. I know. Poor choice of words. I don't want to fix you. I want to support you. Stand beside you. Be whatever you need." His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "Tessa, I haven't felt this way about anyone in maybe ever. And it terrifies me. But walking away terrifies me more." Tessa's breath caught. "I'm scared too. Of getting hurt. Of being out of my depth. Of falling for someone whose world I don't understand. So we're both terrified. That's a start." Daehyun smiled. "Can I kiss you? I've been wanting to all night." "Yes, please." He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Tessa melted into him, hands fisting in his shirt, feeling something in her chest crack open. When they pulled apart, both breathless, she rested her forehead against his. "This is insane," she whispered. "So you keep saying." "I mean it. This can't work. We're from different worlds." "Then we'll build a bridge." He kissed her again, deeper this time. "We'll figure it out, Tessa. Together." The next 2 months were the happiest and most terrifying of Tessa's life. She continued working at the diner, refused to quit despite Daehyun's offers to support her, but moved permanently into the penthouse suite. They saw each other daily, easy routines forming. He'd come for breakfast, she'd have dinner with him after shifts, and slowly, carefully, they built something real. Daehyun introduced her to his world gradually. Dinners with his lieutenants, meetings with community leaders, charity events for Korean immigrant organizations. Tessa was terrified at first, convinced everyone would see through her, recognized she didn't belong. But Daehyun stood beside her always, his hand at her back, his presence a constant reassurance. "They like you," he told her after one particularly intimidating dinner with elderly Korean businessmen. "Lee said you have good instincts. That's high praise from him. I barely understood half the conversation. My Korean is terrible. You listened, asked good questions, treated everyone with respect." He pulled her close. "That matters more than language." But not everything was perfect. 3 weeks into their relationship, Tessa's coworker Lisa cornered her in the break room. "Girl, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." Tessa's stomach dropped. "What? You man, Mr. Tall, Dark, and Dangerous?" I did some digging. "Tessa, he's not just a businessman. He's running the Korean mob in LA, like actual organized crime." "I know," Lisa blinked. "You know? And you're still with him? It's complicated." "Complicated? Girl, it's dangerous. Do you know what you're getting into?" "He's been honest with me about everything. And Lisa, he's not what you think. He helps people, protects the community. By breaking the law. The law doesn't always protect people like us. You know that." Tessa met her friend's eyes. "I appreciate your concern. Really. But I know what I'm doing." "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're falling for a man who could get you killed." The words haunted Tessa for days. Not because she disagreed, but because Lisa was right. Dating Daehyun was dangerous. She saw evidence of it constantly. The bodyguards that followed him, the tension in certain meetings, the scars he tried to hide. But she also saw his gentleness, the way he held her like she was precious, how he listened when she talked about her dreams, his patience with her mother when they finally met. Daehyun charming, her mom immediately smitten, neither of them mentioning his business. "That young man is smitten with you," her mom said after Daehyun left. "And you're smitten right back." "Mama, it's complicated. His life is different from ours." "Baby, everyone's life is different. What matters is how he treats you. And from what I saw, he treats you like a queen." Her mom took Tessa's hand. Don't let fear keep you from happiness. God knows I did that too many times. Don't make my mistakes. The real crisis came on a Tuesday night. Tessa was closing the diner, late shift, manager had already left, when three men walked in, not customers. She knew immediately from the way they moved, the cold calculation in their eyes. Korean, but not from Dae-hyun's organization. She'd met enough of his people to recognize the difference. We're closed, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. We're not here for food. The leader, mid-30s, expensive suit, scar across his knuckles, smiled without warmth. We're here for you, Tessa Brooks, Kang Dae-hyun's little pet. Fear spiked through her. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult our intelligence. We know you're fucking him, living in his hotel, playing house with the boss. He moved closer, and Tessa backed toward the kitchen. Here's the thing. We have a message for Kang, and you're going to deliver it. I'm not involved in his business. You became involved the moment you spread your legs for him. The words were crude, meant to hurt. Now you're going to tell him that the Park family's done playing nice. We want Koreatown. He has 1 week to withdraw, or we start taking territory by force. I'll tell him. Now please leave. Oh, we will, but first. He pulled out a knife, and Tessa's blood went cold. We need to make sure he takes us seriously, and nothing says serious like marking his girlfriend. He lunged. Tessa grabbed the nearest weapon, a coffee pot still hot, and threw it at his face. He screamed, stumbling back, and she ran for the back door. But the other men were faster, grabbing her, slamming her against the wall hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. The knife came up, and Tessa closed her eyes, bracing for pain. It never came. Instead, she heard gunshots, loud, close, terrifying. The hands holding her released, and she crumpled to the floor. When she opened her eyes, Dae-hyun was there, gun in hand, face twisted with fury. The three men were on the ground, dead or dying, she couldn't tell. Blood pooled on the diner's faded linoleum. Tessa! Dae-hyun dropped to his knees beside her, hands frantically checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm okay. Shaken, but okay. How did you know? I have people watching you always. They called the moment those men walked in. His hands were shaking as he pulled her close. God, Tessa, if I'd been 30 seconds later. But you weren't. She held him tight, feeling his heart racing against hers. You saved me. More men arrived. Dae-hyun's people, moving with practiced efficiency. They cleared the bodies, cleaned the scene, made everything disappear like it never happened. Tessa watched in numb shock, realizing fully for the first time what Dae-hyun's world really meant. In the car afterward, neither of them spoke. Dae-hyun held her hands so tightly it hurt, but Tessa didn't complain. They went to his private apartment, not the hotel somewhere his enemies didn't know about, and only then did he seem to breathe. This is my fault, he said, pacing like a caged animal. I brought you into this. Put a target on your back. Dae-hyun. No, listen. The Park family has been pushing into my territory for months. I knew they'd escalate. I should have anticipated this. Should have protected you better. Should have... His voice broke. Should have stayed away from you entirely. Don't. Tessa stood, grabbing his arms to stop his pacing. Don't you dare say you regret this. Us. I don't regret us. I regret putting you in danger. His hands came up to frame her face. Tessa, you almost died tonight. Because of me. Because some rival gang wanted to send me a message. But I didn't die. You protected me. She pulled him close. Dae-hyun, I'm not naive. I knew there were risks. I chose this anyway. You shouldn't have to choose between love and safety. Nobody gets both. My mom got sick despite doing everything right. My brother got attacked for no reason. Life is dangerous, period. She met his eyes. At least with you, I have someone fighting for me. He kissed her then, desperate and consuming. They made love with frantic intensity, reassuring each other with touch that they were alive. They were together. They were okay. And afterward, lying tangled together, Dae-hyun signed something on her skin with his finger. What did you write? Tessa asked sleepily. Sarangi? It means I love you in Korean. He kissed her shoulder. I love you, Tessa Brooks, and I swear to God, I will keep you safe, whatever it takes. I love you too. And Dae-hyun, we'll figure this out. Together. The war with the Park family escalated quickly. Dae-hyun moved Tessa to a safe house, assigned her a full security detail, and threw himself into the conflict with single-minded determination. She saw him less, and when she did, he looked exhausted, haunted. "How bad is it?" she asked one night when he finally came home. "Bad. They hit 3 of our businesses last week, killed 2 of my people." His voice was flat, emotionless in the way she'd learned meant he was barely holding it together. "I'm handling it." "By which you mean you're planning something violent and dangerous and won't tell me because you want to protect me?" "Yes." "Dae-hyun, I need to know what's happening. Not the details, but are you going to be okay?" "I don't know." He finally looked at her, and the fear in his eyes made her chest ache. "The Park family is stronger than I thought, better organized, and they're willing to go further than I am, targeting civilians, using terror tactics." "Then maybe you need to meet with them. Negotiate." "I tried. They want complete surrender or complete war. There's no middle ground." "So what are you going to do?" "End it. One way or another." He pulled her close. "But Tessa, if something happens to me..." "Don't. Don't you dare talk like that. If something happens, my sister Jiwoo will take care of you. She has access to accounts, safe houses, everything you'll need. Promise me you'll go to her." "I'm not promising anything because nothing's going to happen to you." Tessa gripped his shirt. "You're going to win this war, come home, and we're going to build that life we talked about." "I hope you're right." 3 days later, Dae-hyun disappeared. Tessa woke to find him gone, his side of the bed cold. No note, no message, just an absence that felt like a physical wound. She called his phone, straight to voicemail. Called his lieutenants, nobody answering. Panic set in fast. Ji-woo arrived an hour later, face grim. He went to end it, walked into Park territory alone to challenge their boss to single combat. Old school, stupid, and very like my brother. What? Why would he do that? Because he's tired of people dying. Because the Parks challenged his honor. Because he's an idiot who thinks self-sacrifice is noble. Ji-woo grabbed Tessa's shoulders. "Listen to me. He's doing this for you. To end the threat so you can be safe." "Where is he?" "I can't tell you that. He made me promise to keep you away." "Ji-woo, please, I can't just sit here while he's..." Tessa's voice broke. "Please, tell me where he is." Ji-woo studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "You really love him. More than anything. Then I'm probably going to regret this." She pulled out her phone, showing Tessa a location. Old warehouse in Vernon. "But Tessa, you can't interfere. If you distract him, he could die." "I won't. I just need to be there." The warehouse was exactly what Tessa expected from crime movies. Abandoned, industrial, ominous. Cars surrounded it, men standing guard. Ji-woo had arranged for them to get through, and they stood in the shadows, watching the scene unfold in the center of the space. Dae-hyun stood facing a man Tessa assumed was Park. Older, bigger, covered in tattoos. Both held knives. Both were already bleeding from multiple cuts. Around them, members of both organizations watched in tense silence. "This is barbaric," Tessa whispered. "This is tradition. Honor combat. Winner takes control of disputed territory." Ji-woo's voice was tight. "And my brother is exhausted, hurt, and fighting a man with 20 years more experience." Tessa watched in horror as they circled each other. Park struck fast, knife slicing across Dae-hyun's ribs. He grunted but didn't fall, retaliating with a move so fast Tessa barely saw it. His blade found Park's shoulder. The fight was brutal. Both men were skilled, but Park was stronger, more experienced. Dae-hyun was faster, more desperate. Blood slicked the concrete floor. Tessa's nails dug into her palms, forcing herself to stay silent, even as everything in her screamed to run to him. Park got him down, knee on Dae-hyun's chest, knife raised for a killing blow. And Tessa moved without thinking, breaking from the shadows, running forward. "Stop!" Her voice echoed through the warehouse, every head turned. "Stop this! Please!" Park paused, knife still raised. "Who the fuck are you?" "She's no one," Dae-hyun gasped, trying to push Park off. "Get her out of here." "I'm the reason you're fighting," Tessa said, voice stronger now. She met Park's eyes. "You attacked me to send a message, made me the center of this war. So I'm saying stop. End this." "Little girl, you don't understand how this works. I understand that 2 organizations are tearing each other apart over territory that doesn't belong to either of you. I understand that people are dying for pride." She moved closer, ignoring Jiwoo's hissed warning. What if there was another way? There isn't, Park said flatly. What if you share the territory? Split profits, maintain separate operations, but work together instead of destroying each other? Tessa looked between Park and Dae-hyun. You're both smart businessmen. You know this war is costing you more than the territory is worth. She's right. Dae-hyun pushed himself up on his elbows, blood streaming from multiple cuts. Park, we've lost 16 people between us, thousands in revenue. And for what? So one of us can limp away with the spoils while the Chinese triads and Russian bratva move into the power vacuum we're creating? Park's eyes narrowed. You're proposing a partnership? I'm proposing we stop being idiots. Dae-hyun stood carefully. Split Koreatown. You take the West, I keep the East. We cooperate on major decisions, maintain our own operations, and present a united front to outside threats. And if I refuse, then we finish this fight. One of us dies, the other inherits a broken territory and new enemies. Dae-hyun held out his hand. Or we shake hands, stop the bleeding, and build something smarter. The warehouse held its breath. Tessa's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. And then slowly, Park lowered his knife. Your woman has balls, he said, almost admiringly. Coming in here, stopping a death match. That takes guts. She's extraordinary, Dae-hyun agreed, eyes finding Tessa's. All right, partnership. But Kang, your people step even slightly over the line, and we're back to war. Understood. They shook hands, both men bloodied and exhausted, and just like that, the war ended. Tessa's legs gave out, adrenaline crashing. Jiwoo caught her, holding her steady as Dae-hyun limped over. You're insane, he said, pulling her into his arms despite the blood and pain. Absolutely insane. I told you to stay away. Yeah, well, I'm not great at following orders. Tessa held him tight. Are you okay? I will be, thanks to you. He kissed her forehead. You just negotiated peace between two crime families. You realize that? I realized I wasn't going to watch you die for me. Touching, Park approached, wiping blood from his knife. Tessa Brooks, right? You should consider a career in our world. You've got instincts. I'll stick to waitressing, thanks. Shame, he nodded to Dae-hyun. Take care of her, Kang. Women like that are rare. I know. The aftermath was complicated. The partnership with the Park family held, bringing unexpected peace to Koreatown. Dae-hyun's people were suspicious at first, but results spoke louder than doubts. Revenue increased. Violence decreased. The Korean community thrived. Tessa finally quit the diner. Not because Dae-hyun asked, but because she was ready for something more. She enrolled at USC, Business Management, funded by scholarships and her own savings. Started planning that community center she dreamed about. And Dae-hyun, slowly but deliberately, began transitioning out of the criminal world. Used his resources to build legitimate businesses, invested in the community, found ways to help people without breaking laws. This is going to take years, he told Tessa one night, lying together in their new apartment, smaller than the penthouse, bought with clean money, truly theirs. I can't just walk away overnight. I know, but you're trying. That's what matters. Are you sure? About all of this? About me? His hand found hers in the darkness. You could have someone easier, someone whose past isn't so complicated. I could, but I chose you. Tessa turned to face him. All of you. The complicated, dangerous, beautiful man who found me sleeping on a bench and decided I was worth saving. You saved yourself. I just provided a bed. You provided hope. That's rarer than beds. 6 months after the warehouse confrontation, Dae-hyun took Tessa back to that bench where he'd found her. It was a warm June evening, the city alive with summer sounds. I've been thinking about this place, he said, sitting beside her on the bench. About the night I found you here. I try not to think about it. Too embarrassing. Don't be embarrassed. You were surviving, fighting. That's nothing to be ashamed of. He turned to face her. But I was thinking, what if we changed this place? Made it into something better? What do you mean? There's an empty building across the street. Used to be a grocery store. I bought it last week. He pulled out blueprints, spreading them across his lap. I was thinking, community center, job training, food bank, shelter services, everything you've been dreaming about. Tessa stared at the plans, tears filling her eyes. Dae-hyun, this is yours. I'm providing the building and initial funding, but it's your project, your vision, your center. He took her hands. Call it whatever you want. Run it however you see fit. I'll stay completely hands-off except for writing checks. Why? Because you deserve to build your dream. Because this neighborhood deserves a place that truly helps people. And because he pulled a small box from his pocket and Tessa's heart stopped. Because I want to spend the rest of my life supporting your dreams while you challenge me to be better than I am. Dae-hyun! Tessa Brooks, you charged into a gang fight to save my life. You see past my worst parts to something worth loving. You make me want to be the man you think I am. He opened the box, revealing a simple, perfect ring. Will you marry me? Build this life with me? Keep pushing me toward the light? Yes. Tears streamed down her face. God, yes. You impossible, beautiful, formerly murderous man. Yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her as the sun set over Koreatown, over the city they'd both fought for, over the bench where everything had started. The wedding happened a year later in the newly opened Brooks Community Center, named after Tessa's mother, who cried through the entire ceremony. It was small, intimate, a mixture of Dae-hyun's Korean traditions and Tessa's African-American heritage. Two cultures, two worlds, coming together. You clean up nice, Tessa told Dae-hyun as they danced their first dance. Very different from the bloody, half-dead guy in the warehouse. You clean up pretty well yourself, though I have to say, I fell in love with you in a waitress uniform, sleeping on a bench. That's because you're sappy. Only for you. They'd come so far from that November night. Dae-hyun had successfully transitioned most of his operations to legitimate business. He was building a new legacy, real estate development that created affordable housing, restaurants that hired from the community, investment in Korean-American cultural preservation. Tessa's community center thrived, serving hundreds of people every month. Job training, education programs, emergency assistance. She'd found her calling, her purpose, and she'd found love in the most unexpected place. What are you thinking about? Dae-hyun asked, pulling her closer. How far we've come, from that bench to here, from survival to actually living. Any regrets? Not a single one. You? Only that I didn't find you sooner. He kissed her softly. But we have forever now. That's enough. 5 years later, standing in that same community center, expanded now, serving even more people, Tessa watched her daughter play with Dae-hyun's nephew. Her mother was healthy, thriving, volunteering at the center twice a week. Dae-hyun had just opened his 5th affordable housing development, each one named after someone who'd helped him along the way. Mama! Their daughter, 3 years old, stubborn as her mother, sharp as her father, ran over. Appa says we can get ice cream if you say yes. Did he now? Tessa shot Dae-hyun a look. He raised his hands innocently, though his smile was mischievous. I said maybe. She heard yes. She's 3. She hears what she wants. But Tessa was already grabbing her coat. Come on, ice cream it is. As they walked out together, Dae-hyun carrying their daughter, Tessa's hand in his, she looked back at the center, at the people streaming in and out, at the sign over the door. Brooks Community Center, where everyone belongs. Do you ever think about that bench? Dae-hyun asked quietly. Sometimes. Usually when I need to remember how far I've come. How much is possible when someone sees you, really sees you, and decides you're worth fighting for. You were always worth fighting for. I just got lucky enough to find you first. Their daughter demanded to be put down, running ahead with all the confidence of a child who'd never known hunger or fear or homelessness, who'd only ever known love and security and 2 parents who'd fought through hell to build something beautiful. You know what the unexpected thing was? Tessa said, squeezing Dae-hyun's hand. Not that you helped me off that bench, not the hotel or the community center or any of the material things. Then what? That you let me help you. That you let me see your broken parts and didn't run when I wanted to fix them. That you trusted me with your transformation. You didn't fix me, Tessa. You gave me a reason to fix myself. Same thing? No, it's better. Because now I'm someone my daughter can be proud of. Someone who builds instead of destroys. Someone who proves that people can change. He stopped walking, pulling Tessa close. You gave me that gift, and I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of it. You already are. They kissed under the streetlight, the same one that had flickered over Tessa's bench 5 years ago. And Tessa thought about fate and chance and the unexpected ways life could change in a single moment. She'd been sleeping on a bench, broken and hopeless, one emergency away from complete disaster. And a man she'd served coffee to every morning for 6 months had walked by at exactly the right moment and done something unexpected. He'd seen her, really seen her, not as a homeless waitress or a charity case or someone to be pitied, just as someone worth saving. And in saving her, she'd saved him right back. "Come on," their daughter called impatiently. "Ice cream." "Coming, baby!" Tessa laughed, pulling Daehyun forward. They caught up to their daughter, each taking one of her hands, lifting her up to swing between them as they walked. The Korean Mafia boss who'd found his humanity, the black waitress who'd found her purpose, and the love they'd built from nothing, proving that sometimes the most unexpected things are exactly what we need. Behind them, the community center glowed with light and life, a beacon in the neighborhood. And somewhere in the city, another person was struggling. Another story was beginning. Another unexpected moment was waiting to change everything. But that was someone else's story. This one, Tessa and Daehyun's story, had already found its happy ending. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and hard-won and absolutely worth fighting for. The bench where it all started had been replaced with a memorial garden now, dedicated to everyone who'd ever struggled and survived. And in the center, a plaque with words Tessa had written. "For those who sleep on benches and dream of better days, they're coming. Hold on. Someone sees you. Someone is coming to remind you that you matter." Daehyun read it every time they passed, and every time Tessa caught him wiping his eyes. "Still gets you," she teased gently. "Every time. Because it's true. And because I'm grateful every single day that I walked down that street, saw you, and did something unexpected." What was unexpected? Most people would help someone sleeping rough. Most people would call a shelter, give money, walk away feeling good about themselves. He pulled her close. "I fell in love. That was the unexpected part." Best unexpected thing ever? The absolute best. Their daughter tugged them forward again, and they went together, toward ice cream and evening, and whatever came next. Two people who'd found each other in the darkest moment and built something incandescent from the ashes of their old lives. The waitress and the mafia boss. The woman on the bench and the man who stopped. The impossible love story that proves sometimes the most beautiful things grow from the unlikeliest places. And every morning, when Tessa woke up beside Daehyun in their home filled with love and light and the laughter of their children, she remembered that bench. Remembered the cold and fear and desperate hope, and she was grateful for the struggle that taught her strength, for the fall that led to finding herself, for the man who saw her at her lowest and recognized her worth. But most of all, she was grateful she'd been brave enough to accept help, to trust a stranger, to believe that maybe, just maybe, life could surprise her with something good. Because it had. It really, truly had.